I'm recording, and we'll go back to reality capture. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this because we're kind of running out of time, and you'll have this video. So, and there's other videos that I've uploaded that show a similar thing. But what I need to do is I have my model here, image 8271 is my movie file from my phone it's about 430 megabytes. I'm going to import that in here. I'm not going to use this because this part, it does have a quick start, but it's not that hard to use. You're going to want to instead, across the top left here is different kind of windows. We're in the single window. You want to go to the 3 windows. And when you go to the 3 windows, it might say something like, it might say 2D's 2D, 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 or something like that. They might all say the same thing. They might say 1D, 1D, 1D. So it's 3 windows, and you want to switch it so that the first window is going to be 1Ds, 1 dimension. Second window is going to be 3D. And the third window should be 2D. And you can drag them around to resize them a little bit. The biggest one should be the 3D one. Now the 3D one is where your model is going to come up. 2D is going to show your pictures. And 1D is going to give you a list like an outliner type of thing. And so the first thing that we do, there's these tabs across the top, and you're going to go left to right in the process. The first is going to be workflow, and you need to bring in your video sequence. So there's a button here for video sequence. You just click on that button, go to where your video sequence is. Mine's in downloads. I'm going to click on it and open it. And it's going to say how it's going to bring it in. I want actually to set this. So I have this set actually 0.2 from a previous project. That means that I actually didn't have that long of a video. So it was going to make it a lot more frames. I actually want this to be at the default setting, which is 1. And that's going to be every 1 second, it's going to make a frame. And then if that's not enough, I could try like 0.5, and then every 1 second, it's going to make 2 frames. And it's going to create a folder where the video is located. So I probably should have moved my video out of downloads to somewhere else, but I can move it later. It's going to reference that video in that folder. Actually, the folder is more important than the video. So if I say okay to that, it's going to start importing the video. And this took about, on the other machine, this took about 3 minutes for it to import the video. We'll see if it's faster on this machine. So there are a couple of steps that take some time. This is one of them, and then the other one's going to be when it processes the point cloud. Right now, all it's doing is stepping through the video and grabbing a frame every 1 second. It's at 1:30, minute and a half. It seems like it's going really slow, but it's going pretty fast, actually. It should finish well before the estimation time. I think it'll probably finish before 3 minutes. So about 2:21 is how long it took. And what I end up with is I can see an image on the right, and I have an images folder, which I can open up by clicking on the plus sign to see all the individual images. And I could click on different ones to see it in the right-hand 2D panel. And so what I want to do is I'm going to go back out of there, and I want to take it to the next step, which is going to be processing all those images to cameras and create a point cloud. So that's going to be alignment. It's actually in here on this workflow one, or you could switch to the alignment tab, and it's going to be a big arrows here that say align images. And so I want to do that one next. And this is the second time where we're going to wait as it aligns all those images. And here's where we're going to see whether we took enough footage and whether we got good coverage. Yes, it's creating virtual cameras for every image that it extracted, trying to place it where it thought the camera was based on the images and how they're overlapping. And so once it calculates all of that and places them, then it will create a point cloud of colored points for each camera. And when you put all of those colored points together, it will make a three-dimensional cloud, and that can be converted to a model. It's going pretty fast now. I think it's gonna finish well before 2 minutes. And so what you're gonna see over here is you're gonna see a components. And the number of images is 237. And it was able to get a component 0, which has 235 out of 237 cameras. That's actually really good. That means that there was enough overlap that they all came into a single component. Now, sometimes you get a component 1, component 2, and they'll have 2 or 3 or 4 cameras in them, and they're useless. They are just be blank. You can't see anything in them. But on this one, because I've got 235, it's actually created that many cameras over here. And if I zoom out, I can kind of see what the cloud looks like and where the cameras are distributed in that. And if I hold the Alt key down and my right mouse button, I can orbit. Yeah, it's kind of like pixels. It's points. And you can see where the cloud is here. So you got a lot of coverage in like a band across here. There's not a whole lot on the top, like there's actually none up here. And there's not a whole lot on the bottom here either. So I'm not sure, there could be a hole under my chin. We'll see. But it looks like most of the other part of the face is there. And it's a pretty good distribution. So what I need to do is, you can see that the grid is going one way and the point cloud is facing another direction. So what I want is, I want that to be upright on the grid. So I'm gonna try to fix that first. I want to go over to where it says tools on the right here. There's actually, it's kind of confusing. It's not a very good interface. There's like 3 tool buttons and they all have different stuff in them. Makes no sense. So one of these tools, I think it's the far right one, has a set ground plane in it. And that's what you use to adjust this model so that it's gonna, you click on this little arrow here and you define the ground plane. And so what I want to do is choose that, and it gives me this manipulator that I can then rotate this whole thing. And it kind of just went too far there. I want to rotate this, it's not. There we go. Whole thing, using my Alt key to move around with the left mouse button. I can use wheel to zoom in. I can use my right mouse button to orbit. I want to kind of look at this grid, and I want to move up. You can use Control Z to undo so there's a little axis here in the middle, and then there's circles. The circles are for rotating. The axis in the middle here is for moving. I want to pull this up above the, see, I've got the grid going right through the middle of the face. I would like to grab this red arrow in here and pull the whole thing up so that it's above the grid. Yeah, like that. And then I usually kind of look down from the top, kind of like that. And I want to just make sure that my nose is kind of going straight down the grid in one axis. So in this case, I might grab this and just adjust it a little bit. Maybe move, if I can grab that middle arrow, move it a little bit this way, and just try to line it up a little bit so that it's kind of looks like my face is going straight down one of these axes. That's kind of what I would want to do right there. And set that ground plane by clicking on it. So I've set the ground plane, that little manipulator goes away. And then there's one here called Set Reconstruction Region. And I want to think it's this one I want to try. Okay, it's not that one. Let's try this one. Okay, so it's the automatic one. that I clicked on, and that gave me these little dots here. So if I again use my let's see, I'm gonna try to move this. Let's see, which one is it? Not giving me a drag. I might have to look that up. But what I want is to grab these little colored dots and sort of just bring them in to put this kind of somewhat close around the head. And maybe line this bottom one up with the bottom of the, let's just zoom out here. So you can see there's cameras in here, but there's a lot of smuts too. And that's just stuff from the cap, like, it's just random stuff that's in there. I don't really want that to be part of my model. So by setting the reconstruction region here somewhat close around my head, then it should, and there's a back one here too. It should cut all that smuts out when I try to actually convert this to a model. And I won't have to worry about it getting in the way or anything. And you don't really need a lot of your torso either, so. Now there, I kind of put it close around there, and I want the center of that volume to be kind of right in the middle of my head. And then I'll go ahead and set the reconstruction region. Ah, shoot.
Oh, no.
Let me just try it one more time. Oops. Control Z. So it's been a little while since I've used reality capture, so some of the keyboard equivalents and stuff like that I've forgotten. I'd have to look them up. That looks pretty good. Okay, I think you just leave it. Let me just go to the mesh model part. Okay, so the reconstruction region is there. And the next step is to go from alignment to mesh model. And I want to do a preview. So there's 3 levels here. There's preview, normal detail, and high detail. And the preview is going to be the lowest resolution model. So let's try that first, because each one takes exponentially longer. So if I do preview, okay, so it shows me my model. And what I'm looking for, the back is not going to look good because we didn't capture the back. But what I'm looking for is that the shape of my nose? Do I see a nose? Do I see some eyes and a mouth? And if it's there, um, you can see that there's a lot of bumpiness. But that's going to smooth out when we go to the next level. If it doesn't look like a face, then you've got a bad capture. You might as well start over again and go redo your video. Mine looks like a face and it kind of looks like my features, so I'm pretty sure this is going to be okay. So I'm now going to go to a normal detail. And so I'll click on that next. And this is going to take longer. The high detail might take very long. We'll see how long this one takes. And it should look better too. So right now, it's doing model 2. Model 1, I can see over there in the outliner area. Model 1 had 129.2 thousand triangles. So that was low resolution. Maybe, maybe not. It really depends on what your models are looking like. If they're, have you done a model part yet? See a nose there. You can't really see much when you're doing a point cloud. You have to make that upright so that it's, and then go ahead and then I would pull your capture space in. It's kind of like it takes longer if it's got to do all of that other stuff there. And you just have to rotate it for you to get it upright. So. No, it's in tools, the far right tool. And it was the fine line. So sometimes it does do like a really the axis is not even close to the object. So try to use your colored axis, your colored circles. Don't try to rotate it off of something else because colored circles are like a single axis. Maybe I'll do what you did and you'll have conformity. There might be undo. But I can't tell from the point cloud whether you have enough points in the chin area. I can see you have plenty in the forehead and the nose and the eyes, but I'm not sure about you. Yeah. Well, I see features there. So is that low resolution? That's normal resolution. Okay, orbit around and look at your nose and see what that looks like. Now you can try high resolution if yours already finished. Okay, so that could have been caused from a highlight, or maybe there wasn't enough overlap between them. images and it's like a break between the images or something. It might be okay. Um, if you have your general shape of your nose and your cheeks and your chin and stuff like that, and a little bit of just a star or something may not show up on the final image. And also, we're gonna take them into Maya and use the smooth tool on it, and you can smooth some of that out. If you have a big dent or hole, then that's not gonna be fixed. But if it's just like a little crease or a dent, then that might be fixable. Okay, so it finished my normal resolution and I'm starting to see it smooth out and get some things in my cheeks and stuff there. So that I know that by looking at this now, that it's gonna be a pretty good capture. Like I can see that that it looks like me. Like the ear shape is good, the nose shape is good. There might be some little weird stuff on the nose here. That's probably from highlights. And you can see actually, if you look at these images, that I don't have that much highlights on my face. So it didn't really do badly at all. But this one, if I look at model 2, where the first model was only 129.2 thousand triangles, this one is 1.1 million triangles. So it's way, way bigger, higher resolution than the previous one. And the next one, if I did the high detail, we'd be waiting a while and it would end up being probably 4 or 5 million triangles. So, hey Wayne. So this is actually not a bad resolution. I could use this did they call you about the internet? Okay.
Yeah, they told me something about not being able to log in.
So apparently the internet's not working on any of these machines and they can't get into the licensing won't work on reality capture without internet.
Yeah, it's not. It won't have like you would never be.
No, but I didn't do on
That's the thing. Which one were you trying?
all of them.
Yeah, let's.
Like if you all try all of them.
So this is the way it works. One, since these are not wired Ethernet, it's not constantly connected. So one, if wireless is having problems with internet, if you let's say this is the first time you were in this room and you've never logged into these computers, you will never log in. But the way that they work is that you cache the connection. So if there is a computer you logged in before and it disconnects the wireless, you can still log back. So, but it might be that specific. That's what I'm saying is that, for instance, if the computer you're sitting on right now, you never log it back. Or you would never log it. The wireless is the time.
So
Yeah.
we have wireless on all our laptops. It's working. It's only on these ones that it's not working.
Yeah, it's easy.
I think I'm using Edgerome.
Yeah, so these, well, because these can't be registered on. That's
Oh, okay.
so only registration part that works. I don't think check this one works. Because if that's what's going on, then with the power issue that went off yesterday, it could be.
That's what we thought it was might have been that caused it. So you guys can see this looks pretty good. So I think I'm not even going to bother doing the high detail. I'm going to go straight to the because when I export this, if I were to export 1 million triangles, I mean that's like big enough. That's bigger than I need in Maya or something like that. So The next thing is in this mesh model section, there is a colorize and a texture. So I'm gonna do the colorize first. There is a drop down here and it says normal quality or preview quality. I want normal quality, which it's already on. And I'll go ahead and click that colorize. And the way, it's a little weird, this software, the way it works, some of these tools, it didn't automatically do it. What it did was it brought it up down here in this section. And there's some settings that I can choose. So I think, let me try it again. Okay, sorry, I must have just not have clicked it. Some of these things will not actually do anything. They'll just bring up a settings menu at the bottom there, and then you got to click a button down there. So it finished running the colorize part. And you can see this is actually a really detailed, good scan. Yeah, I forgot to wear my baseball cap. So now I'm gonna have to cut that hair or sort of turn that hair off when we bring it into the Metahuman. I did try to trim up my beard a little bit for today so that it wouldn't be too big, but I can see that there's some bumps on that too. But it's a good scan and it took any shine off. So there's not much shine on the face. And so the next thing is it's actually not a model yet. Or sorry, it's colorized, but it's not texture mapped. So it has no UV texture map at this point. There's something here for unwrapping. And you want to do that before you texture it. So if I click on unwrap, here's where it brings up a menu of choices. And there's a button unwrap here that will actually do it. So I don't think I really need to change anything from the defaults here. I'm just going to click unwrap. So that's going to create the UV maps on the face. And then I'm going to click texture. And now it's texturing the face. So it's taken the UV is the mapping coordinates for a 3D model. So when you have a 3D model, any 3D model, if you bring it into a 3D program, the texture map can only be 2D. So the texture map is something you can open in Photoshop as a 2D image. And there's two directions on it. And in computer graphics, those are called the U and the V. That's the two directions. So when you unwrap it, you're creating those, you're basically taking that 3D model and making it into a 2D thing that has two directions and placing the texture map on it. So it's quite complex for a model like this. So it should have a texture map now. And if I open up the model here, where it says model 2, now I can see that it has model textures. And they're 4096 by 4096. So that was probably one of the settings in the unwrap that I didn't look at. I'm not sure if that's default or not, because it could be remembering what I've done before. You'll have to see, it's gonna say, what's half of 4096 to 2043. No, 2048. So it's gonna say either 2048 by 2048, or it's gonna say 4096 by 4096. 4096 is 4K. 2048 is 2K. And we can open that up and we can look and see that it's a 32-bit RGBA, RGBA image. So that's a pretty detailed image. You can see it's got every detail on my face, bumps and all, blemishes, and a 1-day
What did you say?
yeah, stubble.
Wow.
So this is nice to have a model of this quality, but all the MetaHuman creator needs is it needs to clearly see where the eyes are and the shape of the eyes, and where the mouth is and the shape of the mouth and lips, and where the smile line is. The shape of the ears, it will take some of that too, and the shape of the nose. But you're gonna see that it will use the texture map. It'll use the model for like the nose and the ears and stuff, and the cheeks, but it'll use the texture map to find the edge of the eyes. It's gonna be looking for the white of the eyes and the edge there, and also for the mouth, and for the smile lines. So those things have to be there and clear, but they don't have to be this high of quality to work. They'll still work even if it's not quite this good. This is actually pretty good. I don't know what happened right here on my chin there. There was a stray hair probably sticking out. So at this point, I have a model with textures. I can export it. And if I didn't have the academic license that I have, it would charge me something if I do that. And that's right here. It's in the mesh model section. It's under you can do dense mesh model, or I usually use this levels of detail. This is gonna export out like 3 models, one really low res, one medium, and one pretty high res. And I can choose which one I want to take into the next stage. Yeah.
Are you on network? Like, do you need to be on network right now for what you're going over?
Yeah, it'll probably turn my license off if the network.
Because we have to restart this AP. That's the
Okay,
thing. So I don't know, it shouldn't take very long.
yeah.
You
Let me save what I'm doing here.
Because I can get them kind of, that's one of theirs.
So at this point, I might want to continue working on it anyway, so I need to save it. So I'm gonna go up to the top here, and I'm gonna do a save as, and let's just save it in my class folder for this class. Actually,
That's how you know a Toby's a good instructor. You just segue right into it. It's like an opportunity to say.
yeah. Yeah, I probably should have saved before now, actually. Could have crashed on me at any time there. So we'll call this Topher model. Capture. And that's good enough. We'll make a new folder here. reality capture. And we'll save it in there. Okay, it's saved, so we'll see if we lose our license here. So you can see it's not that hard. I have had a harder time before when I didn't get so good of a capture. And there are some tools over here on the right-hand side in your tools menu for reducing the model. So it's not so big. But I find it does that automatically anyway when I save the levels of detail. So I'm not sure you really have to reduce the model. So I'm gonna go ahead and try a levels of detail, I guess. I don't know if I guess I could look and see if we have internet. It says I'm still on Edgerome.
You're gonna export now?
It says I'm still on Edgerome.
Yeah, I think not the same beat. I've got like three like this not coming back on.
Oh, okay.
Above us. Behind you. Double checking. The reason why I'm suspicious about that is because what it sees here is very weak. But the AP is right there, so it should be 5 bars. It should not be like 2 bars, so.
Yeah.
It's trying to connect somewhere else. So I have a suspicion that's not working. I think the closest one might be in the Jason studio on the other side.
So we'll go ahead and try this. I'm gonna do a levels of detail. Oh, before I do that, I'll just show you where, if I go to tools,
What did you clean it up before exporting like the back side? Or no?
no, there's nothing I can do to clean that up.
Oh.
Cause that, we did not capture the backside. That's just gonna stay the way it is. So there is a simplify tool here that I've used before and a smoothing tool. Actually, those are not too bad to use. Like, it looks great when the texture map's on here, but if I go over to just look at the model, let's see if I can. It might not let me look at the untexture mapped model at this point, but I know that from looking at it earlier from the first stage that it's got a lot of bumps in it. And if I want to try to use some of these other tools, I could, oh, that's what the texture map looks like, by the way. Yeah, it's almost unusable in any other program. It only looks good in here. It's way complex. So that's the issue with that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is go to this tools here, and there's a simplify and a smoothing tool, which I could try to use on the model itself. So let me just choose the model here. And what it says is the smoothing tool smooths down rough surfaces of a model. If you have a selection of triangles, then it works just with the selection. Simplify tool, reduce the number of triangles of a selected model. Again, I don't really think you need to do that, but you might want to do the smoothing. So if I choose that, it's going to give me a bunch of options over here. And here's the smooth, and here's the options for the smooth right next to it. And some of these, let's see, it says smoothing iterations 5, smoothing weight 0.2, smoothing style all, noise removal. So I'd have to look it up to see what all those settings are. But I'm just going to try smoothing it. I don't know if it did that much, but can't hurt. And then I'm gonna take it and I want to go to mesh model and I'm gonna do a levels of detail export. So I want to give it a name and point it wherever I think this should go. This is actually going to ADN 460. So let's go back to our class folder and we'll go into reality capture. Okay, here's where I saved my model. I'm going to just export it right to here. So it's naming it the same as my file. Let's just put it's a 4K model. And when I hit save here, it's going to ask me how many models do I want to save out? So I've got 3 in here. There is some simplification. It's going to use simplification to reduce it by a percentage of 25%. The maximal triangles. Okay. So, and I've done this through testing. I don't know if this is the defaults. This is what I usually use. So what I usually use is the maximum one, the high res one is going to be 500,000. It's less than 500,000 triangles. It's actually 499,986 triangles. I don't know if that's what it has to be. That's what I have it set to here. I think it could just be 500,000. I don't know why I've got it set to that particular number. So if I set that to 500,000, then the high res one is going to be 500,000 triangles rather than 1.1 million triangles, which is, so it's halving the size of the model. 1 million triangles is 500,000 triangles is half the size of a 1 million triangle model. So a 1 million triangle model is going to be a fairly large model. 500,000 is probably big enough for what I need. Then there's going to be 2 other ones that are less than that. And I might want to use those or I might not. So I'm going to leave it at that. Each one is going to be 25% lower than the other. I do want to export textures, so that's set to yes. We can open up mesh settings too. It's going to use FBX. That's the format we're using. Export vertex normals. I don't think I want that. Export vertex colors, yes. Export materials, yes. Export textures, yes. Color layer, texture size original, which means 4096. And format for the textures is going to be JPEG. I don't have any transparency, so I don't need PNG. And that's it. That's all I really need to look at. So I'm going to say okay to that. And then it's going to export this.
Doesn't you think you're good right now? Or? Okay, you're welcome.
Finished in 16 seconds. So it really did not take long. If I go out and look in my folder, these are my models. There's a LOD 0, which is 17 megabytes. LOD 1, which is about 5 megabytes, and LOD 2, which is less than 2 megabytes. These are not big files. I would say that probably I definitely want to try the LOD 0 because 17 megabytes, it's not a big file. And it might look good. So for me, I would usually take that into Maya, import that into Maya. So I'm going to open Maya to take a look at it. I mean, we could go directly into Unreal Engine, but I sometimes like to do a little smoothing on it in Maya.
Yeah.
No. Unreal Engine doesn't have those kind of tools. I don't think it does. If it does, I don't know about them. So I'll just bring it in just to take a quick look at it, and then we will end class because we're getting close to 5 p.m. here. So what's that? Yes. So I'm going to go ahead and if you're in Maya, normally at this point, I would want to create a new project by going to my project window, hitting new up here, giving it a name. Let's call this ADN 561 process heads. And I want to point that. Oh, huh. Already got the pathway there. Okay. Did we do something in Maya already? So, okay, I'll hit accept here. And then you want to go into file again and set the project to the thing that you just made, because it's not going to be set there yet. Oh, I see. I was doing an AR model for my other project. So here's the one that I just made. I'm going to choose it and set it. And now everything's going to get set into the folders for that project. So if I go to file, save as, save scene as, it's going to open in this project that I just created, scenes folder. And I can call this Topher Head 1 and save it. So now let's import that FBX that we exported out of Reality Capture. I'm going to go to File and I want to do an import. And I'm going to open up the options for the import so I can see what they are. Normally, this would be set on best guess, and you could use that. But if I know what the kind of file it is, which I know mine's an FBX file, I would go down and find FBX and choose it. Now, the reason I would do that is because there's some presets down here that I might want to use. If I go to edit preset, I want to add to this, add to the scene, and smoothing groups is kind of on by default. I want that. There is no animation, but it doesn't hurt to have it on. What I really want to look for is if there's anything that I want to turn on for materials. Actually, I don't think there is actually. I don't need any. All this should be fine. The defaults is fine. So I'll just close that. And I'm going to hit import. Go to my downloads folder, which probably would have been better for me to put it on desktop because downloads folder does not come up over here. I'll just go to my computer, go into my C drive, find users, go into my user, and then I can find my downloads folder. Oh, I didn't put it in downloads folder. I put it on the desktop. Never mind. I did that. It's in here. Okay, there they are. Those are my FBX files. And I want the LOD01. I'm going to try that one out because it's the highest resolution. I'm going to import it. Okay, so one, I can see it comes in really big and not in the right direction.
So this is not resolved, but I'm about to email. Like your copy.
Okay.
You'll be copy.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
After today, you're going to have all of spring break to work on that.
They have a power out.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Probably have to fix it again. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is click up here on the top of the window where it's got a little checkerboard, which turns on texture maps. And I can see that they're all there and that it looks pretty good. The only thing is it's upside down. So reality capture was not oriented the way Maya likes. So I'll go ahead and click on this. And if I hit the W key, I'll get my manipulator, which is a move manipulator. It works exactly the same as in Unreal Engine, WER. And I want to go to the E and I can just rotate it around manually. Or if I want to, I could look in my channel box here. So there's these tabs and channel box is the top tab. I can see actually it's rotated -90 in X. So let's zero that out and see which way it goes. Okay. Didn't really fix it, but it kind of got it halfway. So I'll go ahead and say 90 in X, and now it's facing upwards. I could have also maybe changed the scale on importing, but I can see that it looks pretty good. There's some bumps here, and it'll be easier if I turn the texture map off for me to see what those bumps are. And I might want to change the material too. So right now, you can see how dense this model is. This is the high resolution one, the highest resolution one. It's a pretty dense model. Sometimes dense models are harder to work with than lower resolution models. I could probably try the next level down to see if it's not quite as dense as this one. And if for instance, this was more dense, if I couldn't even see any of the faces, I might want to just go to a lower resolution one. Now this is 500,000 triangles. There are things for reducing it in here, but I probably wouldn't mess with those. You don't want to go any higher than this. Yeah, this is as high as you'd want to go. And so it might make it a little easier to see if I right click this model, go down here to where there's materials, and assign it a different material. Right now, I think it has a Lambert, which means there's no specularity. And if I put a blend on it, or a Fong, it would have highlights. And it just might make it easier to see what's going on the surface. So, for instance, if I choose blend and look at it, now I can see where the imperfections are, where the things that I might want to smooth out are. You know, if I put the texture map on again, actually it removed the texture map when I did that. So I'd have to go reassign the texture map in the attribute editor for this model. So I'd have to go choose the blend. And right now it has no texture. So if I want that texture, I'd have to go here, choose a file, and it takes me to this where there's a folder, and I can then go and search for the texture map file. It's going to be in where the model was. So it's going to be in, no, it's not going to be the model file. It's not going to be the FBX file. It should be in where the FBX files are. So if I go into reality capture again, there is LOD0 folder. Let's go in there. And then there's a diffuse map. And there it is. And I can open it. And now it has the texture. Now, this doesn't look good because the shine is so strong on it. It looks like a, you know, a ceramic statue, right? And that's because it's the blend texture map. And there's no other things on this. There's no specular map. There's no diffuse, or sorry, there's a diffuse map, but there's no normal map. And the shine and the settings on the diffuse are set to be really shiny. But the advantage of that is if I turn the texture maps off, I can really see where the imperfections are, where I couldn't see them on the other one very well. I couldn't see them very well. So, and I could go back and put a Lambert back on this again later and add the texture maps back in it. If I want to, I probably would. Because that might make it look better inside of Unreal Engine. But the tools for smoothing this out, you can see I'm in the modeling section kind of by default here. There's other ones, but I'm in modeling. And I would want to use Yeah, sculpting tools, smooth tool to try and maybe smooth some of these bumps out. So if I do that, if I choose that, it's just I'm gonna reset that tool. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so this is my size. And make it a little bigger because this is a really big model. And I've got this thing going down my forehead. So let's see if we can smooth it out a little bit. Right now it's at a strength of 100. Maybe I might want to pull that down so that I can hit this multiple times. I don't know what it's going to do at 100, but I can see that as I go over this, that it's starting to smooth that out and take that away. I don't really care about the one up there. And maybe I want to zoom in on this part of the nose and hit that a few times and smooth that out a little bit. It's actually not too bad. There's really not that much on here that looks bad. There's just a few places that could be smooth slightly. You don't want to really smooth everything out too much. And then of course, this thing sticking out of my chin, yeah, we're gonna take that one down. Now it should still be, still should be the same texture map and everything as I do this. And again, I could, once I sort of finish smoothing it out a little bit so that I'm not going to get any big bumps on my metahuman's face. I don't mind some of these little bumps, and some of these are actually on my face, so you know I want to leave those. Do you want it to look like you? So you could. Then I'll quit out of that tool by hitting the Q key. And now I can, if I want to, right click the model again and let's go and assign it a Lambert again. And that takes the shine away. Of course, that also took the texture map away. So if I go over here, I'll see there's no file connection anymore on the color map. So I'd have to go in and choose file again, click here, go and find my texture map. And sorry, I keep forgetting to hold the Alt key down. And so looks a little better. I mean, I probably could have smoothed out a little bit on the end of my nose there. There's some bumpiness there that I don't really need. But overall, that looks okay. There's some bumpiness on my neck I could probably smooth out there. Now, I could also there's a lot of smutsiness back here. And if I don't want that to be part of my Metahuman, it might be good for me to cut that out. So you can select it, right click, switch to faces. And then I might actually want to hit my space bar to get my different views. I was in my perspective view. Space bar is going to make it full screen. Space bar is going to take me back to my perspective with my orthographic views. And let me just switch back to object mode for a second. If I hit F to frame it in those other views, I can see what those views are. F is to frame on your keyboard inside of Maya. And if I want to like chop off the back, I can go to the side view here, or actually it's the front view. Depends on which way your model is facing. And I can right click, go to face, and drag a selection box along the back of this. I don't want to cut my ears off, so make sure you don't go too far. I've selected all that back part, and I can hit delete on my keyboard and chop it off. What's that? No, I'm just selecting the faces and deleting them. I could do the same thing on the top of this head. It's got a lot of smutsy stuff up there too. And I don't really need the top of the head, where the hair's sticking up and stuff. Don't cut too much because you will get a weird, you might get a weird thing happening inside the Metahuman. You don't want any big holes, and I'm sort of chopping off towards the back. Let's just look at that. So I'll switch back to object mode and unselect it and orbit so I can see what I did. Yeah, so I chopped off the back, I chopped off a little bit on the top, but that stuff I don't really need. The main thing is that make sure that the model is not doing like tilted in a weird way. Like you don't want the chin sticking out. Like you wouldn't want it like this, because the metahuman's going to end up having this big chin that sticks out if you do that. So you want it to be, the chin to be further back than the nose in the way it's sort of facing. I think that's okay. Now I could export this out as an FBX file. Export selection. Go into my options. I want to use an FBX to go to Unreal Engine. I'll go to the edit preset this time because I do need to make sure the texture map is part of it. And there's something called embed media. It might be closed up. It might be, yeah, it might be closed up. Open it up with the little arrow and make sure that's on. That's going to make sure the texture map is there when you import it into Unreal Engine. And like I said, the texture map is going to be how it finds the eyes and everything. And that's it. Just make sure that's on. Everything else, smoothing groups, there's no animation. Just export. Choose where it should go. I would probably, I can export it right out to my class folder again, reality capture folder. I'll just put it, I'll give it a new name, Topher head processed. And 1, because this is a test. And then I'll export the selection out. So now that's there. I can then take it into Unreal Engine, which we're not gonna do because it's after 5. We take it in there and put it through the Mesh to Metahuman plugin to create a Metahuman outfit. So I think this one looks pretty good. I won't know until I get it into the MetaHuman animator and process it and see what it looks like, whether it's gonna be good or not. But it's gonna be interesting because I want to see how different it is from the one that I did before. All right, I'll go ahead and save this.
Maria, that was really cool. That was awesome.
Okay, great. So stop sharing it and stop recording.